This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map. Infinity Isle on the left side as the Red Empire. This is GTFU. And on the right side as the Yellow Soviets. This is DarkNage. DarkNage? I don't know. Two players that I am not familiar with, but it's Soviets versus Empire, and that will indeed make many people happy. Double dojo coming out from our Empire player, and double refinery after that. Triple refinery, actually, and he's going straight out to the water expansion. War Factory before second refinery, so definitely worried about something coming out early game. And a lot of conscripts all just sort of gathered together right next to that War Factory. First Terror Drone popping on out. Won't quite get the infect on any of those refinery cores. Much too slow for that. But he's probably... That's actually a bear. I was going to say, he might be able to get the infect right as the harvester spawns, but... That's a bear way down there in the south. Conscripts, maybe a flak trooper, a couple of bears, terror drone and a sickle, all heading through the middle. Both dojos getting sold off. Mecha Bay finally up and running, so our first Tengus will eventually be produced. Sickle going for a bit of harassment. The walls were started, but not finished as GTFU pulls the harvester off the line, and the sickle has been turned around as well. Oil Derrick goes down. Nice strike for DarkNage. First Tengu is out. The sickle trying to go for the escape here, as the harvester is also going to be getting locked down by that terror drone. The infect does not happen, and of course with the Mecha Bay right there, it wouldn't have done much anyways. This sickle doesn't manage to escape. Nice kill there by GTFU. And, well, the harvester can get back online. This has bought enough time for DarkNage to go ahead and get not only his second refinery finally up and running, but his super reactor up and running as well. So the potential for hammer tank before that expansion comes on out for DarkNage. But, of course, he is behind in the economy. He's got that Oil Derrick to help make things a little bit better. And, well, when you're going Tengus against conscripts, the conscripts are doing as good as they can, but ultimately it is not a fair fight. GTFU claims the terror drone and then gets on out of there, which is about as fair of an exchange as you could ask. You don't want to stick around and accidentally lose a Tengu to the conscripts. That just would probably never work out. Even if the numbers say it does work out, you want to keep those Tengus alive as you make your transition towards Tier 2. And as you're looking to get your mid to late game set up, you want to keep those Tengus alive if you can. Additional dojo coming down from GTFU. Transitioning into a bit of infantry, and definitely can't disagree with that. Couple of tank busters mixed in here just to help out the Tengus in dealing with any hammer tanks or other armor. You know, even if the bullfrogs, you're worried about them because you want to use chopper VXs or whatever. Using the tank busters to target down the bullfrogs can also be a viable strategy. Okay, looks like production momentarily lapsed there. I was like, you're sitting on 3 refineries and an oil derrick. You should be able to produce something out of your 1 war factory and your 1 barracks. No move to the high ground just yet for either player, although DarkNage may be doing that just now with his MCV headed up that ramp. Naval Yard way down here in the south for GTFU. Kind of surprised he hasn't produced a Yari mini-sub or 2 to kill that bear and then go harass the third refinery of his opponent. A couple of strikers joining up, and still more strikers coming out for GTFU. I like the inclusion of the tank busters there. Got to be careful against the bears, but The tank busters are a nice touch. Terror drone gets out ahead in front of the army. The bullfrogs as well going to be taking a couple of shots. Got to be careful with that army positioning. Don't want to lead with your weak units like that are a little bit ahead of the rest of the gang and then get eliminated before the battle even begins. 5 Tengus, 6 tank busters, and 4 chopper VXs. Could be a formidable force, but this is enough Soviets to potentially deal with that force. I'm surprised there aren't more hammer tanks out on the field. He really just produced the 2 and then hasn't done much other than that. We'll have to see if the Tengus are able to deal with the infantry. Terror drones going for the infect there as the bullfrogs cleaning up all of the chopper VXs in the sky, and the hammer tanks slowly but surely working away at these Tengus, going for the heal, and that bullfrog earning his stripes. 1 Tengu survives, and just a slaughter for our Empire player who's rebuilding tank busters, rebuilding choppers on the back foot, but still no Yaris, it looks like, heading around the map. This is a completely exposed refinery that has an opportunity to be harassed very easily by a couple of Yari mini-subs. Good transition into the airfield. 4 refineries plus an oil derrick should be enough eco behind our Soviet player to get out a couple of MiGs, maybe even a couple of twin blades as well. And it's going to be a Tengu out on the water to clean up the bear. Still no use out of the naval yard, which is kind of curious because he got that, you know, before getting a 4th refinery. He intentionally got that naval yard up and running, but hasn't produced yet even 1 Yari mini-sub. And in that case, well, you could have just taken the land expansion, gone up to the high ground, and then had a better Mecha Bay position to potentially push your opponent. Then you don't have to spend the cash on this expansion down here and trying to keep that harvester alive. Engineer heading to the middle. This is not an MCV cell engineer. This is indeed just a regular production engineer, but he's going to run away just for a moment there. Satellites getting called down directly on top of the observation post that he almost captured. Does a little bit of damage there. May end up repairing that up in a moment, which would be a bit of a mistake to drop satellites on there and then pay for the repairs. The engineer is going to get sniped anyways. GTFU steps forward, gets the kill on the engineer, and transforms a couple of Tengus, heading out to the water. Going to be going for a bit of harassment, either the main base or way out here at this water expansion. Would be good for GTFU to get a 4th refinery up and running. He's going to want to tech up at some point. 3, 4 MiGs as the response to these 2 Tengus. And of course, they're just going to try and escape out to the water once the hammer tanks show up. The battle lab should be finished up for our Soviet player. Good use of the terror drones by DarkNage to go ahead and lock down both of these Tengus, get the confirmed kills on them, and using the leech beam just to make sure that there is no additional damage taken. Although I guess that poor reactor did take a little bit of damage there. Battle Lab, as I mentioned, up and running. I don't think we have any Kirovs or any APOC tanks just yet. A couple of V4s would be a nice addition to this army. Strikers on the ground keeps them safe from the bullfrogs, but of course there aren't a lot of targets in the air for them to shoot down and deal with. Steps forward, GTFU may be forced to commit to this engagement as he's going to be targeting down the hammer tanks with his strikers, but the MiGs show up to clear out the skies, and the bullfrog continuing to be useful, but there just isn't enough on the ground. The APOC tank shows up, and that is a Kirov as well, and I don't think those 2 things can be stopped by these units. The tank busters get some good shots off, but that's a fully loaded APOC tank ready to run over everything else that the Empire player has. Although I guess, yeah, Tengus can technically just escape. The MiGs get the kill on 2 of the Tengus before they actually clear on out of there. And the Empire ground army cleaned up most of DarkNage's stuff, but not the APOC tanks. Everything else, if those APOC tanks hadn't showed up there in the nick of time, then that actually would have been a pretty good opportunity for GTFU to do some more damage, but it was not meant to be. 1 bomb falls, some good impacts, and that is almost enough. Oh, he might barely get it, but I don't think so. With that refinery just barely surviving with a fraction of health. That falling Kirov actually did more damage than I was anticipating. Once again, it would be nice to sneak out a couple of Yari mini-subs from this naval yard. But an additional naval yard now going to be going up by DarkNage. Wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of dreadnoughts be produced as well. Or even just one dreadnought with a couple of bullfrogs or something to keep it safe from striker VXs. Satellites getting called down. That is a lot of strikers and not much else from GTFU. MiGs can be cleaned up, and then with no bullfrogs on the ground, the strikers will have a heyday. One MiG gets cleaned up just immediately. The V4 gets a shot off, but really it's the APOC tanks that are trying to do the actual damage. Two APOC tanks leading the charge. They're going to hold off for the current moment. The twin blades split off to the north. Couple of Tengus being produced and no King Onis, no Wave Force artillery. Would, of course, be nice to have a Wave Force artillery or two, but he never got the tech up. He never actually went all the way to Tier 3. That ore refinery barely surviving, being pretty good here. And these APOC tanks just sitting here, no bullfrogs, no MiGs nearby to keep them safe. And those point defense drones doing a good job of keeping the strikers alive, allowing them to survive a couple of extra hits. Natasha is also here on the front line, although there isn't a whole lot to snipe. Could potentially take down one of the strikers or one of the Tengus, but taking down just one in this case isn't a big hit to the numbers. And it's going to be Akula subs out in the north, not actually dreadnoughts out of that naval yard. The APOC tank gets jumped. The Tengus coming forward to deal with the MiGs. And then the entire army turns around for both sides, but not a lot of anti-air on the ground. You could even try and jump on the bullfrogs, although at distance, they'll clean up these strikers pretty handily. The two bullfrogs do get eliminated as they drive into range of those strikers, and the airfield gets eliminated as well, so no more MiGs. If he jumps onto that war factory, he may actually be able to deal with everything else just by transforming the Tengus. Another bullfrog steps on out. It does get targeted down immediately, and the war factory also gets eliminated. The barracks is the last production facility for DarkNage. He does now have the naval yard way out there on the water, but it's kind of a little bit too far away to deal with this army. Target down the V4, the easiest thing for the strikers to actually eliminate, as their rockets don't impact infantry very well. Although when they're standing still, they do okay. Natasha just got sniped by strikers. Flak cannon getting targeted down, double vet and heroic striker VXs. Two bullfrogs going to be coming forward. Unfortunately, no flak troopers to help them out in this case, to help do a little bit of extra damage to those strikers. And the big transform as those bullfrogs go fully heroic and they finally get eliminated. Point defense drones going to be helping these Tengus deal with the infantry, and the Tesla troopers are really the only high damage output unit in that group of infantry. A couple of more bullfrogs out on the water. You can, of course, reproduce your MCV if you're having trouble keeping it alive, and dropping a refinery and a naval yard down here on the water might be a decent idea to try and get something going for DarkNage. He sends in the Tengus to deal with the strikers, of course. The Stingrays clean up a couple of the Tengus. The bullfrogs are the only thing that can contest the strikers, and Stingrays will just get shredded as the strikers are going to try and jump on top of the bullfrog anyways. They do get the kill on the bullfrog, but it costs him two strikers. An additional bullfrog being produced could save the day as the last striker goes down. The naval yard survives, and the Stingrays clean up the Tengus. DarkNage barely able to make that one out, but he's lost so much in terms of production, not so much in terms of economy. And in fact, he actually isn't floating that much cash. He's only got 1,000 credits in the bank. He's been spending his money quite well over the course of this game. The Bullfrog control is almost good enough, but it's not quite there. There's just too many strikers to be cleaned up. And the Bullfrogs can outrange the strikers, but you have to keep them right at the edge of that range. Backing up the MCB to try and break the attack move or the attack command. And all of the strikers go down, but the MCB also gets eliminated as DarkNage cleans up the last of the strikers. And this is close to a one-trick pony as an Empire player gets. Really, it's just strikers now. It's not even the Tengu Striker combo. But low on cash, it looks like strapped for production, is DarkNage. He's going to have a hard time pulling out an army that can stand up to whatever GTFU can build. And GTFU, this would be a great time for him to take a 4th refinery to expand up to the high ground and then to play a little bit defensively if he's unsure if he has the ability to end this game. I mean, otherwise, you might as well just move across the map and see if you can eliminate more and more infrastructure. Going for the super reactor is a great move here. He's going to get the Bullfrog as well. Of course, point defense drones being huge in this situation. Caught between two Bullfrogs. One striker goes down. A second is eliminated, and the spread of the fire allows the Bullfrogs to, allows the strikers to survive a little bit longer, but ultimately the Bullfrogs do clean them up. All 4 strikers going down basically for nothing. Final Squadron actually eliminates the Naval Yard with the special ability. He gets the Naval Yard. And that is it. So now it's just up to this army. I mean, you can keep harvesting resources, but it won't actually do you any good. You might as well sell off all of your buildings except for one, and then just go all in with everything that you have right now. The longer that GTFU has to stick around in this game, the more stuff he's going to be able to produce. Stingrays, the fact that they're in here means that nothing on the water is potentially safe. And the Akula sub finally being utilized to clean up this refinery now that GTFU doesn't have anything to protect it. He's going to try and save it with the strikers heading out to the water. It may actually barely not get it. He's just going to, yeah, go back under the water and just outweight the strikers because you can't defend 2 places at once with those strikers. Using the fully heroic Stingray to clean up those tank busters so it will survive a little bit longer and it will heal up. Did he get the ore from that? I mean, that ore got unloaded after the refinery was actually sold off. I'm not actually sure where that money went. Maybe it just disappeared into the ether. The Bullfrogs cleaning up these strikers, but the strikers finally on top of the Bullfrogs going to be able to eliminate them, so there's no more anti-air, and these strikers with just units on land will slowly but surely work away at everything. They can't kill the terror drones very easily. There is one flak trooper. If he had been here 30 seconds earlier, things might have been different, but now this one Imperial Warrior is going to try and jump on top of those conscripts, and if the flak trooper holds still, it actually will go down. Terror drone gets eliminated. Conscript, fully heroic as he may be, is not going to be able to kill off all of this stuff. That would be some pretty insane stutter step micro to run all the way around the building, avoiding the rockets from those strikers. And that will do it, I think, for this game. DarkNage has been defeated. A pretty action-packed map. Definitely not the highest level execution and decision-making overall, but you have to give it to these guys. Keeping it pretty steady the whole time. And, you know, GTFU, he definitely got trapped in his striker force, but he ended up making it work. Strikers killing that many infantry, I've not seen that in a long, long time, and definitely packing enough anti-air to deal with the strikers was DarkNage's downfall, losing those APOC tanks and basically his whole army to the strikers over the course of the game. But that will do it for this match. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is Sybert signing out.